What I'm going to talk about today is picking and equipping yourself with a woods knife. Now, for those of you who have been watching my channel for a while, you've seen me out in the woods a little bit, and you've seen me doing the hunting thing this year. I've begun to share that experience with everyone. And what I wanted to do is make a quick video about selecting the right tool knife-wise for going into the out of doors. This particular setup is going to be what I literally and currently use, and this is going to be the method of my carry, and I will get into the whys and what fors of how I carry. Now, in my own personal outdoors philosophy, I believe in carrying at least 2 knives. The idea behind it is it gives you 1, a utility blade, and then 2, a sharp and precise blade. Sort of the theory behind the old case trapper knives. You would have 1 knife that you use for everyday use, and then the second blade on the knife would be for you keep it sharp and you maintain it sharp and you never use it for utility purposes. That way, if any sort of precision is needed, you can do those cuts and you have for sure a sharp blade in the moment. Now what we're going to do is we are going to quickly talk about fixed blades versus folding. Now as you can see here that I do not have a fixed blade right now. I would like to have a fixed blade, and very high on my list is the carbon steel Mora Clipper as well as the stainless steel Mora Clipper. And I'll probably be getting those. I don't think I'll be getting them before the end of the hunting season, but I'll definitely have at least one or both for next hunting season, or perhaps even spring gobbler. We'll just have to see how it works out. The advantages of a fixed blade is that usually they are stronger and they are purpose built. In my case, it'll be much easier to clean because if I'm cleaning game, then having a knife such as this with all the openings and the hinge mechanism and everything else could be a little bit tricky to clean out all the guts and whatnot and everything. Not to get too nasty, but I think you get where I'm coming from. So what I'm going to start with first is we'll save that big guy for later, big being relative, which that's the other thing that I would like to point out. In my out of doors philosophy, I don't personally carry a very large survival knife. I personally haven't been in a position where I felt like, gee whiz, I wish I had more blade on me. 4 inches and under have been just fine for everything that I've ever tried to do with a knife outdoors. There are plenty of videos on YouTube, of course, where it shows people batoning wood with a large knife. There are better ways to split your wood in the woods than using a large Bowie knife. And in the case of many of those videos, in context, you will see that the producer of that video is demonstrating the strength of the knife. Not demonstrating that a knife is supposed to be used as a wood splitter. If you have need of splitting wood, then you need to either bring a hatchet or a wood splitter, okay? To use a knife in such a fashion when a knife in the woods and in survival is such a precious commodity is very, very foolish. You can have kindling pieces that will start larger pieces of wood without having to create your own kindling and medium fuel pieces of wood. But we'll have more on that later if anybody's interested in it. But let's start out with the utility stuff. This is a Gerber multi-tool, and this year it is serving as my utility knife. And why the Gerber? It was given to me by my friend Vince. He took it to Iraq with him back in 2004. Oh, you'll see a little bit of vines and stuff that I use. There's cutting edges up inside the pliers as well as the pliers themselves. And of everything that I've recently come around to carrying, I don't always carry the multi-tool. I don't really miss it when it's gone, when I'm not carrying it. But when I do have it, I tend to use the heck out of it. Okay? there's always, up at the hunting camp, there's always things that need the pliers, either a sticky bolt or a sticky wing nut, or just something that needs the pliers. The second most popular thing I use off of these is going to be the utility penknife blade. Now the difference, one of the key differences, now there are several, one of the key differences between the Gerber multi-tool and the Leatherman multi-tool has to do with the orientation of the penknife blade. As you can see on the Gerber, the edge is higher than the bottom part of the handle. So it sort of limits you if you wanted to chop against a surface, and the Leatherman has an advantage in that. The other advantage that a Leatherman has to do with being able to deploy the knife without having to open up the pliers. Now I don't have a problem with these particular pliers. I'm not going to kick this multi-tool out of the bed for eating crackers, if you know what I'm saying. It works fine for me. And I understand that there are fans of the Gerber multi-tool and there's fans of the Leatherman multi-tool that will absolutely go to war over the advantages and the disadvantages of these tools. And that's fine, and you can have that. But let me just tell you something. They're both decent. I've worked with and used both of them, and I would feel comfortable out of those two brands, and I understand there may be some others, but either one of those brands, a good quality is the key on the multi-tool, because you don't want that plier system to fail on you when you're needing it. It's just really worth having in the woods, especially if you're around machines and you're doing some rigging or whatever. I mean, it's invaluable. Second most popular blade is going to be this serrated safety blade. I like that it has this piece on here. It's blunted, just sort of round off. I want to say, what is that called, a sheep's head? It's either a sheep's head or a dog nose. And the serrated really allows it to bite into rope and things like that. The downside is it's very difficult to sharpen and maintain. But what can make it easier is it's a chisel grind, meaning that the edge of this is only on one side. So you can maintain it on the back side. You can straighten it back out a little bit. And what I use for maintaining both of these knives currently is just this steel. I know many people have stuff about stroping and everything else, but being I don't go out of my way to abuse my knives, it allows me to maintain a factory edge on them, and all I have to do is perform maintenance work on them, and they stay sharp for what I do. There are people who have need of sharper, but I'm cool with it. You may have seen me just actuate the lock. That is another advantage of this particular multi-tool, is it locks the blade. The file, of course, if you guys remember the first time I've ever shown this, the file is broken, and I don't get much particular use out of it. The Phillips head screwdriver would probably be the third most, and its usage is obvious. There's 3 different sizes of flat blade screwdrivers. The adapter and the other bits that would fit over this screwdriver piece are long gone, I'm afraid, my friends. So it is what it is, and it works well. Can opener. You wouldn't believe how valuable it is to have a can opener when you're up at a hunting camp. Canned beans, other sort of non-perishables, everything else. And a can opener is one of those things, like you find yourself, you get up there and you realize that you don't have it. But I think the point that I'm trying to make is the utility knife that I prefer to carry has multiple functions that allow me to carry kind of an all-in-one in something that I would need to have 3, maybe 4 separate tools. I can have it all in one. The disadvantage of that is it makes it perhaps easier to lose, but I haven't lost it yet. And I keep it, the sheath of course was long gone too, but I keep it in this old camouflage sheath that I got with a Gerber 600 back in the day, back when the Gerbers were made in Portland, Oregon. And it fits nicely, it fits perfect. And I have it on my belt with the sidearm that I carry when I go into the woods many times. And it works well. And again, I haven't lost it. Now we're going to get into the preserved blade. Now what I'll do before I leave for the trip is I will touch it up and make sure that it's sharp. And this is going to be the knife that serves as my skinner and my game processing knife. Is it my preferred one? No, but it is what I had, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with going into the woods with what you have. If all you have access to is a paring knife out of your drawer for cleaning and the other knife you can have for utility, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Sharp is sharp, okay? And there's no reason why you have to hold out on getting out into the woods because you don't feel like you have the right tools. And even when you do have the right tools and everything that all the experts say is no guarantee that you're going to be worth a damn in the woods anyhow. So go out there with what you got. Keep a blade preserved, and just do your thing, man. Don't be afraid to get out there. Be careful, of course, and anytime you're using edged knives, especially when you have a preserved blade that's extremely sharp, you want to, of course, be careful with that. But as they say, there's nothing more dangerous than a dull knife. But getting off my tangent, this is, of course, the Spyderco Paramilitary 2 with S30V steel, which is something you have to keep an eye on because it's not as rust resistant as other. What the hell is this lock called? It's some fancy lock on the back that I don't really like. I mean, it's cool. Excuse me. It's cool that it's different. It seems to be extremely strong. But if you're hand fisting this sucker and you're not prepared for it, this little lock mechanism can pinch a person's hand if they're not prepared for it. And if you're not prepared for the mechanism itself, it can be dangerous in closing. Because as you're trying to figure it out, you have pressure on the blade, and it's a very sharp blade. And the S30V gives you the option of holding a very, very sharp blade, a very sharp edge. It can be somewhat dangerous because of it being a new lock type fixture. Now it goes against a solid pin here, so the going back and everything else is just an extremely strong blade. Some people have claimed that the Paramilitary 2 is an ideal EDC, and I would disagree. I think the blade is too long for EDC, honestly, for what I call a knife to do. My personal best EDC blade for every day has actually been the Victorinox Executive with again 2 blades on it, and the blade that I used the most, it was like an 1.25 inch pin blade. But be that as it may, there you go. This hope this helps out with anybody's selection of a woods knife. I welcome any sort of video responses. I'd especially like to see people who have come up with some fixed blade options, either the ones that I mentioned or some others. And I'd really like to hear from a couple of you because I know you have a lot more experience in this manner than I do. Video responses and comments, of course, are welcome. And thank you very much for watching. We'll see y'all later.